I got 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't believe we have any amendments to the agenda. Just need to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Let's review the minutes from March 4th regular council meeting, which is included in the packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 4th meeting minutes as written.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 5. Abstain?
Please, I wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, you're in Florida.
That's okay.
5-0 or 4-0-1. Minutes from the work session from March 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve the work session meeting minutes from March 11th.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Accounts payable, Councilor Durham.
Well, there's only really two of note, and they are 746 and 747. And I'll let Kim explain them.
So this year, last year, we'll start with the big one, the $116,000 one. That is our property and casualty insurance for the city of Zumbrota. Last year, the League of Minnesota Cities came through and did an inventory of our property and then revalued it. So there was an increase due to an increase in value, which we've seen overall property, which in turn drove up the rate. And there we go. So we had an increase in there, a little bit higher than our normal 4 to 5% increase. And there were a couple pieces of property in the park that for whatever reason were not listed in the insurance policy because they're specifically called out. Those were picked up and put on the policy. So there was some increase in the park budget with their insurance costs. The workers' comp went up significantly. Our rate in 2019, we paid about $39,000 in workers' comp. This year it was $61,000. The reason being that our experience modifier, which is our rating, changed, which drove up our rates, but also overall within the structure, within all the governmental entities in Minnesota, there's been a big increase in workers' comp claims. And because of that, that has just driven up the rate in general. So everybody overall is seeing a high rate change. We spoke, Brian and I met with Brett Bolter, who's our agent, and we can't get a better rate. And now that we have an experience modifier change, it will be a while before we can go ahead and find a better rate. So that's just what it is, and we'll just have to adjust our budget going forward. It's going to be an overspent item on the budget, but we'll adjust our budget going forward and hopefully be able to have more moderate increases.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, so if there's no other questions or no more questions for Kim, I will make a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $220,275.56.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks. Public comments. This is individuals may address the city council about any items of concern. Speakers must state their name and limit their remarks to 5 minutes. Due to COVID, we've asked for any public comments to be directed to city staff. Kim, Brian,
Nope.
Anybody here in the council chambers that has here for public comments? I will close the public comment portion of the meeting. Public hearings. I'm going to open the public hearing for 7A, a 5-year street reconstruction and overlay plan. I believe Jessica from Elders is going to discuss that. And she's visiting us via Zoom.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. And thanks for allowing me to participate virtually. I hope to be able to see you all soon. I'm also working on your sewer rate study, and we'll be talking about that in the future. So hopefully that will be in person. But I'm here for Rebecca Kurtz this evening, who is your municipal advisor that works on bonds and was unable to be here. So I wanted to talk about the proposed financing for the Jefferson Street project. So the first few items on your, well, the item related to the public hearing relates to the Jefferson Street project, which, as I understand, is about a $6 million project. $3 million of that project you've received an allocation of state bonding money for that. So it's like a grant. But before any of the state bonding money can be dispersed, the city has to provide its $3 million match. And the reason for although the street project won't, the construction of the street project won't happen imminently, there is a need to do some engineering and pay for that engineering of the project this year. And that's why the city is undertaking issuing bonds now for its portion of the matching, or the matching portion of the project. So when the city issues tax-exempt bonds, and I know the city of Zumbrota hasn't done that for many years, and kudos to you for that. You need to have a statutory authority to issue the bonds and provide a general obligation pledge to those bonds. What a general obligation pledge means is that the city is pledging its full credit and full faith and credit taxing powers to repay the bonds. And that's the most efficient financing. It's going to get you the lowest rate on the bonds. But in order to pledge that, you need to be issuing the bonds for certain purposes that are allowed under state law. And one of those purposes is for street reconstruction. But in order to do it under that purpose, you have to adopt a 5-year street reconstruction plan, and that gives authorization to issue those bonds. And before adopting that plan, you need to hold a public hearing, and so that's what the public hearing is about this evening. One of the key statutory provisions of this authority is there's what's called a reverse referendum period. So you would have the public hearing tonight and then wait 30 days before issuing the bonds. And during that 30-day period, if someone brings forth a petition that's signed by 5% or more of the voters in the last general election, then in order to proceed with issuing the bonds, you would have to hold a referendum to get authority to issue the bonds. So you'd have to go to the voters for approval to issue the bonds. So that's the purpose of the public hearing this evening, is to take public comment. And then following the public hearing, there will be some action to adopt the plan. So that's kind of the overview. I'll go through a few key provisions of the plan and what's in the plan. It basically is saying that the city intends to undertake street reconstruction, and it lists the projects authorized in this plan for the next 5 years. And the only project listed is the Jefferson Street project. And this plan authorizes spending up to $3.5 million on that project. Now, we understand the expectation is that the city's portion of that project will be $3 million, but we just put in a little cushion in the event there are cost overruns, since we don't have bids for that project. It also gives authorization to issue bonds for the project, and the proposed bonds in the plan are $3.125 million, so $3,125,000. The plan also lays out what I described about the reverse referendum, the 30-day notice period, and provides a time frame for the public to follow in case they want to gather a petition. And that's an overview of the subject of the public hearing and the content of the plan, and I'd be happy to take any questions. This is kind of technical. So I didn't want to go too deep, but certainly can take questions.
And then 10 questions. First thing we'll do is take any public comments concerning the street project. Any public comments? Okay, any questions for Jessica?
No, well laid out, thank you.
So I will close the public hearing, and I will just need a motion and a second to go forward.
That'd be to close the public hearing.
Oh, to close the public hearing, sorry.
I don't think
Do
you.
we do, no, we don't do a motion.
No.
Nope, just close the hearing and then you can move
Then
on.
we'll do it down the road.
And then we'll get to the resolution.
That's what I call.
Okay.
We're doing the headlights. Look.
Okay, we'll close the public hearings. We'll move to new business. 9A, the resolution of the 2021-05 adopting the 5-year street reconstruction and overlay plan. Jessica.
Next resolution is the action adopting the plan that was considered at the public hearing and that I described that gives authority to issue bonds for the up to $3.5 million in street reconstruction projects.
So, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-05.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Jessica. 9B, resolution of 2021-06 providing for the sale of the $3.12 million general obligation bond. Jessica, again, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So this is the next step. So it's selling bonds is a two-step process. This first step is you're authorizing us as your financial advisors to start the process of structuring the bonds and going into the marketplace and taking bids and getting the lowest bidder to buy your bonds. And then we'll be coming back in April with those bids and asking you to award the bonds. So this authorization now does not commit you to selling the bonds per se, because you aren't awarding any bonds yet. But once we go into the marketplace and take bids, if none of the bids are awarded, it's kind of a black mark on the city if you go to sell bonds again. So it is a significant action that we're considering taking tonight. So let me describe the bonds a little bit. As I said, the bonds are to fund $3 million in project costs. The reason that the bond amount is $3.12 million instead of $3 million is because there are costs associated with issuing bonds. There's costs for legal counsel for us. We pay the underwriters that purchase the bonds. And then there's something called capitalized interest. And that's because you don't have, these bonds will be repaid with the tax levy. And you don't have that tax levied this year. So you would levy it this fall for collection in 2022 for paying the bonds in 2023. And that time period between now and 2023, there's some interest that's due on the bonds. And the payment for that we put into the bond issue. It's called capitalized interest. So that's another expense that makes our $3 million project require $3.12 million in bonds. There's some other structuring issues with the bonds that I just want to step through so that there's full disclosure. These we're proposing would be 20-year bonds, so 20 principal payments. They would be outstanding until 2042. And the estimated annual debt service is approximately $180,000 a year. These bonds would be bank qualified, which just means you're issuing less than $10 million of bonds in a year, and so you get more favorable interest rates. We would be getting these bonds rated by Standard & Poor's, a rating agency. Right now, your existing debt is rated by Moody's, and with a rating of A1, and we anticipate we would get a similar rating from Standard & Poor's, but we'll find that out as part of the sale process. As I mentioned, we would recommend that these bonds be sold on a competitive basis. And what that means is that we go to underwriters, who are the people that buy bonds, and we ask for their best price for the bonds, their best bid. And they provide that, and we choose the lowest bidder, meaning the lowest interest rates on the bonds, and award the bonds to that bidder. And that's a method that helps ensure that you're getting the lowest cost of debt for your project. You already have some debt, but I just want to point out to the council that when you issue tax-exempt bonds, which these are, there are some federal requirements that require ongoing management. And so every year you'll have to disclose your financial statements to the bond market, and there's every 5 years you have to do some calculations on your bonds, and those are all things that we help you with. But I just want to impress upon you that it's not just an act of issuing the bonds, but also it's an act of managing the bonds over time. And finally, something to think about, and no decision needs to be made tonight, is that you'll be issuing this $3.1 million of bonds, but you won't be commencing the project for several months. And so that provides an investment opportunity for the bond proceeds. And so just to think about how those will be invested, and if you'd like any assistance with that, that's something that Ellers can help assist with. I think that gives a good overview of the bonds. As I said, if you choose to proceed, then the resolution authorizes us to put together the sale and bring back bids for you on April 15th. Now, there are two last things I wanted to mention. I always want to fully disclose any potential risks of issuing the debt, and I see two in this situation. The first is a little timing issue. Remember, on the street reconstruction plan, there's a 30-day referendum or reverse referendum period where someone can come forward with a petition. Because that was adopted tonight, that 30 days is up on April 17th. This sale is scheduled for April 15th. So it's a couple days shy of that 30-day period. So by going forward on this schedule, we're expressing confidence that there won't be an uproar from the public about proceeding with this project, and you won't get a petition in on the very last day. What we'll be doing is we'll be checking with city staff regularly as the sale date gets close, and if there's any evidence of a petition, then we will postpone the sale date. The second risk is that bond proceeds have to be spent within 3 years. Now, I think that's a real small risk because although the project hasn't commenced, it's not anticipated to be a 2 or 3 year project. And so even if there's a delay, I think we can get it done in 3 years, but I did want to point that out. So that's my overview of the bond structure and any potential risks of issuing the debt. And again, I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thanks, Jessica. Any questions for Jessica?
Nope.
I need a motion for the resolution 2021-07. 06.
Agreed. Yep, second.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks for all your work, Jessica.
Well, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thanks, Jessica.
9C, Lions Bench donations for the Trailhead Building. Mary,
Mary Goffin.
you want to come right up here?
I'm Mary Goffin. I'm from the Lions Club. And one of our service projects that has been in coordination with the Trex Company, and we're recycling plastic. And we collect it, send it back to the Trex Company, and then for every 500 pounds of plastic we send in over a 6-month period, we get a Trex bench. And so, can I vote?
Yeah, forget it.
This is what the bench looks like, and the second page is its specifications. And so we currently have 3 of these benches already, a 4th one will be coming shortly. And what we would like to do is donate 2 to the city council to use at the trailhead, if that's okay. And then the 3rd one, we would like to, Gary Harbo has expressed interest in having it at his community garden, if that's okay with the floodplain issue.
Yeah, it's removable, so it should be
Yeah.
fine, right?
So, and I don't know if that's you guys is to decide or if that's the park board.
No, that's not park property, is it?
I think that we find out that
I think the park does own
the park does own that. So
Oh,
that
they
will-
do?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Brian brought that up here.
So I'll take that to the park board then.
Perfect.
But it doesn't, because it's not permanent in the ground, it can be put there.
Yeah, to go there, yeah. And so the only question with that is if we just set it there, what is the chance of it being stolen? Or is there some way we could secure it to the cement out there?
That's
We'll work with
Mike.
Mike on that one.
Yeah, and Brian Brewer, if y'all need help, he said he would help. He's one of the Lion members and has the brackets and everything, so.
Perfect.
But,
Perfect.
you know,
Awesome.
the 2 for you guys are ready to go. We can deliver them wherever you want them, whenever you want them.
Perfect.
Is that something you want
Take on,
to
Mike?
take on with Mary? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Mike. Perfect. Thanks, Mary.
That's a
Thank you.
fantastic
Do you
thing.
want my
I was wondering why they were taking all that.
What do they want for a cement pad for them?
What was that?
Maybe they can just set it by the building.
For a cement pad? Well, if they were on the pad.
I think that's where they're gonna do it on the back. Do we need a motion for that?
I
No.
don't think so.
Okay.
There's Brian Brewer's garage.
Thanks, Mary.
Do you want your?
Thank you.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Guys, have a nice
Nice.
evening.
You
Yeah,
too. Thank
thank
you. Okay, 9D, approval of Keller apartment building civil plans. Brian and/or Ryan.
Yeah, I'll start out. Staff has reviewed the site plans and with the exception of a few comments as outlined on Bill's letter here, we recommend approval conditional upon these items on this letter being addressed. And then Brian had a couple things on the staff side as well.
Yes, there are a few items that, because the PUD hasn't been completely firmed up yet, there are items that will be going through the PUD process to, I guess, make sure we capture them. Items pertaining to parking, one-way traffic along the alleyway, and setbacks. So we'll be working that through the PUD process.
You are? Trying to figure out, you got everything.
Any further questions for Brian and/or Ryan? I just need a motion.
I will make that motion. I'm so excited to get this project started.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. 9E, sale of forfeited vehicle. Chief Callahan.
Chief out there? Okay, good. Come on, go.
So we have a Toyota 4 that's been an impound for about a year, and we received our forfeiture certificate on that vehicle, and we've decided that we're going to sell it back to the parents of the owner. The vehicle was purchased for that person who was arrested and created a significant hardship because it was paid for. And they explained things in detail to me as well as the arresting officer. And so therefore we came to an agreement. If we're able to do that, we would sell it back to them basically for the fees for storing the vehicle, which is quite significant. So it's a way for them to recoup some of their losses. They'll be able to sell the vehicle themselves so they can kind of recoup those expenses. Not our traditional way of dealing with things, but it's not an uncommon thing. I know some agencies, they may choose to do that right at the onset. But Goodhue County typically doesn't like to do that. Waukesha County does that all the time. So we had to wait for the entire period, so.
Sounds like a good result. Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
We don't need a motion
I
for
have no
that.
idea.
What?
I have no idea.
Yeah, we usually motion,
Yeah.
it's city property, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the forfeiture sales of the appearance of the forfeited. There we go.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Chief. 9F, resolution of 2021-07, sanitary district non-binding resolution of support. Brian?
Yes, this is that non-binding resolution we've been talking about bringing to council for a little while here. We're looking for all the communities who wish to remain in talks for a sanitary district to have their councils and mayor approve a non-binding resolution. At this point, that means that we'll proceed with a feasibility study with whichever communities are still involved. After that, if the preliminary feasibility study, which is kind of a high level, if that looks good, looks like we're going to proceed, then we'll be looking for a binding resolution, which will probably come with some dollars at that point to do a much more comprehensive feasibility study to look at everything. Again, before moving forward after that. But this is just, again, non-binding, basically says we're in, for the next steps.
Oh, like that one. I feel like I'm just on a roll and all my projects are coming. I can.
Do we have to do
Walk away.
individual roll call on this one? Do I see in the bottom?
You're running again.
No, not on a resolution. I don't think.
Okay.
Done.
Do we, Sarah?
What?
Do we have to do individual?
I think you have to do a roll call.
roll
on a
call.
Resolution?
Okay.
Sure.
Because we didn't on the other resolution.
Okay.
Well, I don't know why it's on here.
Well, this
Yeah.
is,
Because we're back to
so
where I
what
did it.
Mingo does, put together the template for all
Oh,
of us. We're all
okay.
using the same template. So that's why I put that on there. So
Okay, well, if you don't have.
I think just a.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Brian. 9G, the rezone of 1680 County 168 Boulevard. Ryan?
Good evening. So on March 9th, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing and discussion concerning the rezone of this parcel. It is currently zoned C2 Highway Commercial, and that's been the case as long as since there was an access point right off Highway 52 there. However, that access is no longer there, and the Planning and Zoning Commission considered the future land use plans as laid out in the comprehensive plan from 2016. And they determined that the best use for this land is for industrial. So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that this parcel be rezoned from C2 commercial to I2 general industrial. We do have individuals here representing the landowner actually, Mr. Larry Tomford, and well, his son-in-law, did I get it correct? Yeah, his son-in-law who's assisting him, Scott Carlson.
Any further discussions, questions?
Nope, this one's for planning and zoning. When did you meet?
March 9th. March 9th.
Any further discussion that came from that? Or they approved the rezone? So we're good?
There was additional discussion concerning the potential for future use, but the question at hand was for the rezone. And so they determined industrial use is the best use for this land.
Sounds great. Thanks, Brian.
Per our comprehensive plan from 2016, which was brought up and discussed at that time too.
Okay, sounds good. I'm good.
Thank you.
Does the landowner have any comment about?
Then we're good.
Got a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Tomford. 9H, the interim use permit for 2101 180th Avenue. Let's do Ryan again.
This is what's known as the former Alco building is now the Family Dollar Tree. They are currently using, that retail space is leasing approximately 11,000 square feet of that building. The entirety of the building is about 26,000 square feet. So that leaves about 14,000 square feet not being used. So the owner, Mr. Steve Cheney, has applied for an interim use permit to allow for commercial storage within that space. The Planning and Zoning held a public hearing on March 9th, and they've determined that they recommend an interim use permit to allow for commercial storage within that space, sunsetting once the retail space is no longer being used. So a Family Dollar Tree ends up leaving there, and there's no longer a retailer in there, that would sunset the interim use permit.
And one of the things that we discussed at Planning and Zoning, and I think Jay is the realtor for there, can confirm it, that they have a 10-year lease and then an option of 3 to 5 years after that, is what Family Dollar, is that correct, Jay?
Yeah, they typically, Family Dollar or Dollar General is 30+ years in a location. So they just don't move a whole lot. They stuff a lot of money into the space. I've gone over and talked to the store manager, and they said it's really going well. So they're happy.
Good. Yeah, and I think, Mr. Cheney's done everything we've asked of him, so.
Yep. And Planning and Zoning was okay with that. There was a few questions, where they're gonna have another door, where they're gonna have an entrance, but
He gets the L shape of a building that you can't access, so
Yep.
it's their problem.
yeah, so.
Awesome, thank you, good work.
Tina, you want a motion?
Oh my gosh. I'll make a motion to, do the error permit on the Steve Cheney property, whatever that is. 2101 180th Avenue. I guess I could use these.
Second?
Second? All right.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Jay. Reports. Brian?
Yeah, I just, not much today other than thank you, Ryan, for your service time here. You've been a big asset for the city and just a pleasure to be around. We had a lot of fun in the office with Ryan. Going to be missed. And we want to welcome Dylan Armstead. He's our new employee. He's through CETA as well, as Ryan was. And yeah, just welcome. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. My name is Dylan. Nice to meet some of you who I have not met yet. I'm originally from the cities. Past 8 years been doing real estate, both private and public sector. Have a couple degrees in business administration, master's degrees in business administration, and all that on the tool belt. I'm excited to be here, working for the city of Zumbrota, doing some development and following Ryan up in his big shoes. So thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks, Dylan. Perfect. Chief? Thank you. James still here? Thank you.
Yep, nothing tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Thanks, James. Matt? Mike Olson?
I just wanted to wish Ryan well too. Leaving, he's really done a good job for us, and I've really enjoyed working.
Thank you.
Ryan, last time. Okay, thank you. Dylan, do you have anything you want to say?
Should have came with a speech, but I would go ahead to thank Ryan. We've had some overlap in onboarding this week, and he's just been a tremendous value to my knowledge of getting to know the city. And so I would thank Ryan at this time.
Thank you. Kim?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
I guess the only thing I want to say is I want to thank Ryan. He's done very well. I've dealt with him quite a bit with planning and zoning. He knows the ordinances and all that stuff, and it's been good. I've learned some things from him, so thank you, and good luck on your next adventure. And I'm excited for Dylan too. Big shoes to fill, Dylan, big shoes. Thanks, Ryan. Council Durham.
Nothing. I'll say bye later, Ryan. Thanks. And
Council Hossaker.
Nothing other than good luck, stay safe, do well, so, and appreciate all your work in the last couple of years.
Council Horvath.
Thank you for your service, thank you for your continued service to this country, and good luck. Look forward to working with you. That's it for me.
Council Freeze.
Wanted to say good luck in your endeavors as well. And, welcome.
Thank you.
Nothing further. Meeting adjourned.